Attend an event in the last 6 or so months? Highly unlikely. What if your business was built all around events? What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fervent Four. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? I'm Zack Miller, author of Anomaly. And with me today, I have my co-host, Tim Ryan, lead man at startwheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent Four is a weekly show every Thursday at 11 a.m. dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business no matter the climate. The Fervent Four is powered by the SBDC, which helps local small businesses grow through counseling and resources like this show. If you're interested in learning more on how the SBDC can help your business, head on over to startwheel.org/weekly. Tiffanie Rosier built Allstar Photobooth into an award-winning business that helps make events rock and roll.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite kind of music?
My favorite kind of music?
Yeah.
Okay, well, everything. And I know that's not the answer. I know.
I
am one of those people, Zach. So get used to it. But guess what?
Too.
See, I love it. Exactly, Tim. You can listen to my iTunes and there's a little bit of pop and a little bit of country, a little bit of, top 40, a little bit of Christian music. I mean, you name it. I got it all. A little bit of musicals, especially one of the latest ones.
Gospel Christian or Christian rock,
everything. Everything. What you might hear in a church, what you might hear on a little bit of Newsboys, whatever. I mean, it's eclectic. Oh, and some oldies, of course. So
as the cool kids say, you do you. Okay, so what's the if there was a jam that you wanted to rock and roll down the street to, what would that be? For me, just to give you a little inspiration, of course it would be Taylor Swift.
Okay, some Taylor Swift. I like that song. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling. That song. Don't ask me who sings it. Flo Rida, maybe. But it's just it gets you going.
Yeah.
I don't know what all the words are so hopefully they're not bad words in there. But it's just, I don't know. It just gets you going. Start your workout or start your walk or something, or clean the house.
Nothing like Flo Rida.
I know, right? I thought it was Florida, but
also spelled out Florida.
That's right.
Yeah. Took me a little while.
So you're an event guru. What got you into events in your kind of business career?
Actually, I mean, pretty early on believe it or not, when I was back in college, I planned events for James Madison University is the college that I went to for undergrad. And I planned events for 200 people in a residence hall. And it was just really fun getting people together, planning activities and just things that would get people out of their rooms and interact and engage. And I enjoyed that so much that I ended up being in a leadership role at JMU. And from there, I actually was planning 5 events for about 5,000 people. So most of my jobs working in higher education, it had an event, part of an event component to it. So I've just always thrived on bringing people together and having these great experiences. And so as I continued to do those events and, some of my different jobs continue to allow me to do that, then I have this love for photography and I love capturing memories and remembering things. And that's what kind of segued into my photo booth business, where I had a chance to bring my love of bringing people together, with events, but then also utilizing something that's a hobby, but also something that I'm really passionate about. And so I, looked into the opportunity to start a photo booth business, an award-winning now photo booth business. And I started that in Hampton Roads overall. And it's just been something that I've enjoyed meeting the clients. And I honestly would say, this is what I miss right now the most is there are some people who have supported my business since I started 6.5 years ago. And, this past year may have been the 4th, 5th, or 6th year that we were doing something for them. So it was a little bit hard. So you develop a relationship with your clients, or at least that's what you should do, so that you can continue to do events with them. And, then they refer you because you do a great job. So that's how I got into events. And I also now do some, I work with Northern Virginia Community College and plan STEM related events. And so again, that's my passion and my love is for planning events, whether it's an in-person live event or now virtual event, or even with the photo booth, we can do virtual photo booth events. And Everybody can be at their own homes or their own houses or parties, or with physical distancing as noted, in your area, of course.
Right. Socially distanced. We're socially
Yes.
distanced right now. We're actually
Yes.
in the same home. No, I'm kidding.
I know we are. I'm in one room, Tim's in
So
another, Zach's in the other room.
I was, my wife loves Big Brother, and it
Oh,
started last night. And I'd asked her a few weeks ago, "Hey, is Big Brother happening this year?" Not wondering anything, but I was like, "That's one of those shows that probably could go on from a production perspective, where a lot of shows aren't being produced right now, because they have to be actually like recorded and
right.
then actually edited. Where this one, they just have cameras in homes. I don't know what made me think of that, but a lot of the stuff from a production perspective, people don't realize is that there was a lot of stuff in the can that's still ready, that's still rolling out. All
Right.
the stuff that needed to be recorded and produced right now, or over the last 5 months, that's where things are going to get a little hairy, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it triggered when I said about the virtual photo booth option, where like you can be in your own home or you can be
right.
anywhere, around, and you don't have to be around people. So
It's hard to
yeah,
figure out this wild mind of Zack Miller. So
I know. I can keep up.
I love that aspect of college too. I remember being in the dorm and just like always being around people. I had like a camera at that point, so I would like record stuff, and then like we would watch it together. Like we would go to parties together. So that was always fun. So it's interesting that we had a similar journey in that kind of world. Obviously, the world now is a little different. Can't be around a ton of people.
Right.
So when this whole thing started in March, so where it's what, March, April, May, June, July. Oh, wow, we're
August.
almost at 6 months ish. Like, what were your initial thoughts about it, knowing that you were in the event space? Were you seeing stuff happen? Were people like freaking out? Because you're also part of an international organization who does a bunch of events. Like, were you seeing stuff of this, or is this all kind of blindsided, Joe?
No, when things started to happen in March, let's just say from the photo booth perspective, like that part of the events, I had clients who said, "Hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to have my event." And so, and at that time, there wasn't the big focus of these virtual photo booth experiences where if, the events still happen, maybe we could still provide a service. It was just that things weren't happening. As far as things that I do, the STEM related events, for Nova Systemic, that again, everything was put on hold. And with that, Zach, and Tim, one of the things that I am a yes person as much as I can be. And when I was tasked with, hey, do we cancel this event since it can't be in person? And I said, no, we'll just make it virtual. But then you had to learn all of these tools and these resources. And from the International Live Events Association side, ILEA, really literally that Thursday, I think it was, after things kind of shut down, like on March 13th. So that following Thursday, I myself and another person related to ILEA put together this presentation on how to make your events virtual, and just as a starting point, because I think some people may have not known how to respond, or they didn't know how to respond, or they didn't know what their options were. And I felt like, hey, I want to keep things going, and I know people are going to need help. So I think having that mindset to think a little bit down the road of what are the tools and resources that people are going to need, and how can we help them then actually implement their event if it can be converted into a virtual type of space. That was just a big thing, and I think heads were spinning, and people are feeling overwhelmed. And so I think as many of us that could offer these different types of webinars and free opportunities and experiences, like that's what we did with ILEA. We opened up all of our webinars. Like I think 90% of them were open up to anybody. You didn't have to be a member because we were all going through this together. So like for my mindset, yes, I was in that headspace to problem solve and try to be as proactive more than reactive in all of the spaces that I interact with.
So you said that you started 6.5 years ago?
With the photo booth business, yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that Zach and I always talk about, and one of the most common questions that we get is everybody has the next greatest idea, but they can't start because they don't have funding for their business. Can you walk us through, you had the idea of your business, what steps did you take from a funding standpoint to get things started?
So for me, just kind of looked at, well, what are my options to some resources? Do you have like the cash resources? Do you use a credit card? So I didn't have all this cash put aside, to start a business or pull money from another resource. I chose to say, you know what, I'm just going to use this credit card and I'm going to use this to then, purchase some equipment and kind of get things going. And then because I was starting my own business the way that I did with the photo booth, I basically was my own worker. I didn't pay myself, but like I was my worker. And so I did as much as I could on my own. And I think that's the thing, Tim, that sometimes people forget is that when you're starting a business, you really have to give more than the 100%. Initially, you have to be the one, creating the plans and figuring out a vision. And then if and when you can bring people on, whether as a, W-2 employee or an independent contractor, you've got to know how to work with them and then train them or teach them or help them basically be an extension of you so that when you can't run the business, they can run it just as good as you would or even better. So I think initially, like, that's what I did. I said, you know what, I'm going to use this credit card and that's going to be what I use to kind of get myself going and then pay those things back as I start getting contracts in. And the other thing, and I don't know if this is appropriate to kind of add in at this point, I also challenged myself. I, grew up in where I had an opportunity to do sales with the company that has like pink Cadillacs, And so one of the things I was taught early on was, it was Mary Kay. So you had to do these 30 faces in 30 days. That was your challenge to get put the product on the faces of 30 people. So I just basically took that mindset from the Mary Kay training and other things that I've done even since then through people like, working with Zack as a business coach. But what I've done is then I took that concept and I said, okay, I need to get 30 bookings in 30 days. Like I just had moved back to Virginia 2 weeks before. And, I put some stipulations. It was going to be this special price. People had to book and pay in full by a certain date. And, did I get those 30 bookings? No, but I got 27 bookings in 30 days. And that's what really propelled my business into moving forward. So I think you have to challenge yourself initially when you're getting started is give yourself some goals that kind of scare you a little bit. And even if you don't reach them, you're probably a lot further along than if you just did nothing and said, well, I don't really know what to do. Maybe I could put some stuff on social media. Maybe I'll go to this networking event. Like you've got to do it all.
Yeah. So many people don't believe in it the same way that it seemed like you did.
Yeah. It's your choice, right? You can do things at your pace. And my pace just happened to be that I didn't want to be sitting around for, 30 days going, well, what am I going to do? And also when your family says, yeah, you could move back and stay with us for a while. However, we're not paying your bills. Then you're like, wow, okay. So I literally would suit up and whatever that meant. But, because Zack's suiting up and my suiting up are a little bit different. But, I would, no judgment, Zack,
So no
the black
judgment
t-shirt, exactly. And I've got my purple on. I don't know if you noticed. But, every morning I would get up and I would treat getting my photo booth business off the ground as my 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever kind of hours you want to call it job. And I would get up and I would look and see what are the things I'm going to attend today. Who are the different people I can maybe outreach to? Oh, it's pouring down rain today. Okay, great. People are probably going to be in their offices more. So let me make some phone calls. And I will tell you all that sometimes the mistake, quote unquote, experiences or the phone calls that you make to the wrong department can be the best experience. And by that, I mean, I was reaching out. I thought, here I try to think I'm following rules like, oh, you have to register your business with every city agency to do your photo booth. And so I was calling up all of the city people because, emailing doesn't always get a response. And I reached out to the city of Virginia Beach and I talked to this woman named Carla. And she said, you actually don't need to do this. However, I'm the PTA president for my kids' middle school in Virginia Beach. And hey, there's a PTA on every school, and then every city has a citywide PTA. And she helped connect me. And literally my first 6 months of business, I would say probably 75 to 80% of it was school related, but it was because I made that one phone call that, I was kind of scared to make. And I made it to the department that really wasn't the department I needed to make it to because it really didn't exist that I needed to do what I needed to do. But I took a chance. And so that's what I think people have to get comfortable with, is taking chances.
I dig that so much, right? Like, oh, oops, wrong person. Where else can this go? I'm already here.
Right.
Right.
And I will tell you, 6 years later, she is still, Carla's one of the biggest supporters of my business. Actually, one of the kids that was, I guess, middle school is the one that just graduated from high school, and I did a little cool like grad design for him. So it's amazing. I mean, just how that one experience can set your business in motion in so many ways that you would have never thought.
Relationships always matter. I mean,
yeah,
that's so powerful. What I took from the Mary Kay challenge of that was, I love looking at other businesses or things that I like to consume, and just being like, okay, what did they do? And is there something there that can I dissect that and figure out, is there something there that I can do myself? Right. And so you looked at that. Hey, I worked here. I did this before at some point. And they forced me, right? Forced is probably the wrong word.
Right. They challenged me.
Challenged me to, put makeup on 30 faces in 30 days. How can I do that myself? And I actually would challenge more people to think like that too. I actually have coined it the Iron Man content strategy, where I consume a ton of Iron Man, the fitness related triathlon world. And because of that, I say, okay, what can they do? What are they doing that I could do in my business, right? And so it's but it's the same thing as the Mary Kay 30 for 30 challenge, 30 face challenge. It's okay, well, they did that, and I abided by their rules, right? What would happen if I abide by my own rules to challenge myself and do 30, and you got 27 out of it? So those are hell of a win. That's a hell of a win.
I think the other thing too to think about, and is, to couple with that, is then the other concept of, okay, if you're going to outreach to, we'll just use that 30, you're going to outreach to 30 people. Well, guess what? And 15 of them are going to say yes. Well, and then probably out of that 15, maybe 5 of those are actually going to become a client, right? So you also have to be realistic with those numbers, that everyone you reach out to, yes, you have these 30 people, like I said, to reach out to, but then only half of them are going to say, yes, you can tell me more about your business, or you can, I'm interested in getting some information. But then maybe about 5 of them are actually going to book with you. I mean, so I think that's the other thing, is that kind of a concept and mindset people have to remember, whatever those numbers are for them.
And one of the things that I think is interesting, when I first met Tim Ryan, the thing that he did at the very end of the conversation was, hey, is there anyone else that you think would be a good fit for meeting with me? And so many people wouldn't do something like that, but it's so simple. It's okay, if this meeting's going well, and he put that there, there's a filter there. He goes, if this filter is there and things seem to be going well, I'm going to ask this question. Hey, is there anyone else I should meet as kind of a new guy on the block? And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I still don't do that, but that's a good strategy, right? It's interesting because so many people don't even capitalize on the network that they already have and their network. So,
well, how about this concept? So a lot of times I have somebody, again, we can say this is part of the 30 people that hey, I sent out information. They attended let's just say a wedding expo, and I send an email, try to follow up, and someone actually does say, hey, yes, I'd like some information about your, photo booth related or digital booth, virtual booth event services. So I provide that information to them. But when I am having a conversation with the individual, if that's how we started this dialogue, I still also tell them that, I would love to, we'd love the opportunity to work with you. And if for some reason we don't get the opportunity to work together, I'm happy to refer you, to other resources outside of the photo booth area. If there's anything you need, please let me know. And I literally have had people call me back and say, okay, so your price was $100 more, but I really felt a connection with you. I felt like you really cared about my event, my wedding, for example. And you weren't just trying to sell me on the photo booth. And so, I want to go ahead and book with you. And then I say, okay, great, let's get started. I mean, it's creating that trust in there too.
From a business metric standpoint, what do you focus on? Do you have a goal set in place that you want to hit X percentage of people to be repeat customers, or how do you balance that out?
It's funny that you asked that, Tim, because I wouldn't say I'm the details side of that. Like, because I think because I get in that mindset of like, okay, you've got these 30, and I'm again just using this 30 concept, 30 people. And then, what happens is then I get sidetracked because it's like, oh, wow, this person booked and this person booked. So now I'm dealing with this and dealing with this. And so I probably don't go back as much as I should. But the way that I try to look at the just kind of the overall goal is, what type of impact do I want to have? Yes, like what do I want my sales to be, maybe for this next year? The certain types of events that I offer, what kind of percentage do I want that to look like? So I kind of look at it that way. But as far as the client outreach part, I think it's so dynamic for me, and it comes from so many different sources, and I'm outreaching in so many different ways. I probably don't track that the way that I should. Um, I don't know. And if there's another way to ask me that question, then I might answer differently. But I do feel like, and Zach, he's interacted with me before. I can get on that way. I'm on this plan, and everything's going great. And then it's like, whoa, squirrel. Like, oh, here's this opportunity. Like this client wants to give me 8 events, but hey, I was working on this list of 100 people from this wedding show, but oh gosh, I didn't even go back to the wedding show people. And now I may have missed an opportunity. So, shame on me for not having a better plan potentially. But then I'm focused on then developing this relationship. But as far as the metrics on repeat business, I want somebody to be a repeat client if there's an opportunity, or at least refer us to somebody. And that's where, if I were to probably look at those numbers, and I can't remember if I've shared a number, but I would say more than half of our clients are actually repeat clients. Before we had to change a lot of these COVID related, cancellations or movement, I would definitely say that probably a good 75, 80% of them were clients we'd worked with before, or referrals, or now their personal events. The new clients are come in for us, but for us, it's really, like I said, these people that have been with us 4, 5, and 6 would have been 6 years.
One of the questions that I don't know the answer to this, and I appreciate you being really transparent with this, and there's not a wrong answer.
Okay.
So you had your 30 face challenge that you wanted to get in front of. What did you do with the revenue that you generated?
Mm-hmm.
Did you take some of that and save it for a rainy day type of fund to try to build up some runway? Or were you like, hey, it's party time, we've just made X amount of dollars, and then
right. No, when I first started, everything was going back into the business because, as you grow a business, you look to the left and you look to the right, you look ahead, you look behind you, you look online, and oh, this person is offering this backdrop, and oh wait, now I need to be able to offer this, now we have this many different options for your backgrounds. Oh, now we're going to do green screen. So now I need to maybe invest in some of these stock photo programs and upload professional background images. And oh wait, now we're having our first baby shower type of an event. So now I need to get some baby shower props. So I found that early on, a lot of the money went back. It definitely was not party time at all. It was definitely reinvesting, is the word I like to use, back into the business so that then we could provide the best quality or options for our clients. So yeah, that's what I did with a lot of the money in the beginning.
Do you even remember what normal is? So many people were like, oh, when we go back to normal, right? That's 6 months now, right? What new normal have you? In my opinion, we should be creating new normals all the time anyway, right? We should be figuring out ways to improve ourselves, which eliminates the old normals that we've gotten better from. And so when people talk about the normalcy or going back to normal, or this is the new normal, do you live a life of constantly changing that and evolving to get better, or not, I guess?
Well, I think so. I think this goes back to something that we all were talking about in the very beginning. It's that relationship building, right? So normal and I'm just using it related to the photo booth experiences, a normal event experience in the past for a photo booth might have been, hey, people come up, they get their props, they're putting them near their face, they're putting glasses on, they're having their picture taken. We're all laughing and talking and handing them photos. I mean, we're inches apart from each other. So that was, quote unquote, the norm of how a photo booth operation may have worked in that type of setup. So now the normal could be very different. If we are 6 feet apart, then there is no longer that engagement of, hey, I'm handing you your picture and we're right there. Maybe it's going to now be that your picture is going to be placed on a table that individually people can go and pick up their picture. Now we can't have everyone hovering around, watching everybody else get their pictures taken and laughing and having fun. And I mean, now it's going to be, hey, we're going to have some physical dividers that are kind of keeping people spaced apart. Yes, we would.
So as a business with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you plan for the future and execute for the now on things that you've invested in for the before?
I think do you mean?
So like before someone could do this, right? I have
Mm-hmm.
things in place for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not able to do that. Even let's say that you can have an event, right? Let's say that an event does happen, right?
Right. That's kind of happening right now.
But how do you then, as a company, do you just get rid of those things that you've invested in because you can't do that? Do you reinvest in new things for the in between? Like, because I think that's where a lot of King's Dominion announced that they're not opening this year, right? Busch Gardens is going to open for like a little bit, it sounds like, right? Or has opened for a little bit, right? They made the decision that with what has been put in front of them, they can't open and be what a business is supposed to be, right? How do you as a business recognize whether or not, I guess, you should be open, right? Can be open, like that you can afford that, in kind of the same way that King's Dominion decided, hey, with what's being presented to us, we can't operate as a business. So how do you figure out whether or not this is going to be viable or not? Because ultimately we want you to stay alive, right?
Right. I think, so in my case, I mean, there is this option, and obviously we're talking about this photo booth world right now. So yes, there is an option for a virtual experience, whether or not people on their own are gathered together, let's say at an event, or if they just choose to not be gathered at an event and everyone gets this link, they can take a picture on their own phone. They can upload a picture that's already on their phone. They can still have the same shared frame, same experience. Everybody's pictures get uploaded to this gallery that they can all view, and the picture comes to their phone. So while we have the opportunity to offer something, it's obviously not offering what was the in-person experience. And so I think if we talk about things that we may have invested in to try to continue the business or continue to do the business, but in a different way, I think it's just a matter of trying to figure out, what's your plan? Are you reaching out or connecting with your current clients, or do you have clients who have moved their events to the future? I mean, I don't know if I really have an answer for you, for everyone on that, because I think it's going to be personal. How much are you willing to go through this experience, this wave, until you make a decision and say, look, this is, like you said, hey, my season is completely done for the year. Like in my head, sure, I'm saying, wow, I've got 4 events on the books right now that are still holding. Would I love to get more events on the books? Absolutely. It's also just that comfort level, Zach. I mean, I have to admit, once that does happen, now we have these new ways of having to do things. And, are we really as comfortable as we think we are? And maybe, yes, we're still social distancing or physical distancing. We're, wiping down things. We're wearing gloves, or we're wearing masks. But I think sometimes until we're probably in that scenario, we're probably really not as sure.
Well, and I think that's something that a lot of people are not talking about, in my opinion, is kind of buyer behaviors, right? My plan is this. Great. Are people willing to jump on board with that?
Right. Well, and how about in this scenario? I'm the business owner, right? I'm taking my photo booth equipment there. Let's say it's a scenario where we could be there and we can be distance and all that. Well, what do you do when there's the person who doesn't want to abide by all of that? Like, now do we become the rule enforcers? Like, we're trying to help people have this good experience in this different way than they're used to experiencing. But now we have people who aren't maybe wearing the mask at the event and it's something that they're required to do. Then, there's a whole set of other parameters, discussions, like you said,
Right.
training. I mean, and how I react might be different than how my team member reacts. Maybe they don't have experience in interacting with people who are going to maybe not be cooperative. I mean, there's a lot to consider, but those are the conversations that people should be having and talking with maybe other people who do what they do, or just other business owners, or like today, people listening to this, experience and saying, wow, I never thought about that. Wow, I never thought that it would be this way. Or what about the what ifs, the buyer behavior, the consumer, the person at the event, their behavior. I mean, those are things to consider. And then do we now need to also think about in our contracts, my contract says, if people are belligerent and all, these things, whatever, like we can shut down the event, there will be no refunds. Now, do we need to have little clauses in there about things like that related to kind of our health related stuff?
So I was going to ask you from a liability standpoint, it seems like everywhere you go now, as we start to enter society, we're filling out a COVID waiver. So with your business, does the person that you book with, are they the ones that are responsible for all of your guests, or does everyone that enters the photo booth, do they need to fill out some sort of liability waiver?
So it's interesting that you say that, Tim. So we don't have things that are scheduled right now that we we have some things scheduled a little bit later down the road. So we're kind of waiting about another month to decide how we handle things that are going to be about 2 and 3 months from now. So basically the end of the year. But I shouldn't say and I had an opportunity to facilitate a panel with a couple of other people in the photo booth world. And we actually brought up those topics of, now I want to make sure that what are the protocols for the venue? What are they doing? If there's a planner involved, what are they requiring the guests to do, or the client that's utilizing the services? And then, like you said, now on my part, based on those factors, I also probably need to have a few different structures of how I handle it. I haven't thought about everybody has to take their temperature before they experience the photo booth, but what if we get to that point and I need to invest in something like that? Hey, I mean, I've seen them, I've experienced them myself. It's this thing that you walk up and you're kind of does your facial outline and then it reads your temperature. I mean, do I need to invest in something like that? Maybe it's something that if I did, it would be at these, larger public events where they're not signing any type of waiver. I mean, there's so many things to consider. And I think right now, I think a lot of it is going to be a case by case, not just conversation with the venue, but some things that are documented. Because again, I don't want to be the one responsible for guest behavior of things that are not happening. If the venue says, hey, they need to be wearing a mask, but then they come to the photo booth, they're not wearing a mask. I mean, do we make an exception? Do I have a mask on or not in my picture?
Didn't someone wasn't someone busted on a party boat in New York City like just a couple of days ago? There was like 700 people on board. Or something.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the things that those conversations I think have to happen. I mean, I would always try to have those conversations anyway with venues like, hi, what's the load-in time? What's this? What can I do? So from an event perspective, there should be more dialogue happening than not on who's responsible for what. And it shouldn't be a week before the event happens. If technically these events that let's say I have coming up, December, it's a wedding. I can have those conversations now with her venue to say, hey, this client is booked right now. What do you all have in place? And I know that can change come December. And if you guys don't mind, I would like to just mention that I also think it's so important not only to have these conversations with the venues and whoever else might be involved on that side, but with the client themselves. I mean, this client that's getting married in December, she reached out and said, things may change. And I just want to talk again about like what the protocols are related to like our agreement, our contract. And she emailed me that. And guess what? I picked up the phone and called her and she's like, well, I didn't expect that you would call me. And she's like, I just really appreciate this. I'm like, well, no, this is an important scenario that could happen. And I'd rather us talk about verbally what our options are that, yes, are related to what's in writing, but how we would work through that together and
Not to
what that would
mention
mean.
context gets lost a lot in text,
Yes.
right?
Text and emailing. Yeah.
So that's good. In regards to things that are changing and things that you might change for your business, kind of around what Tim is saying, do you anticipate just increasing pricing and just calling it a price increase? Will you have a lot? Have you thought about doing a COVID expense on there? Like, do you go to like? I haven't seen this because I don't go to restaurants because I'm terrified.
I've heard about what you think you're going to say.
But like, is there a line item that says COVID expense? For the new things that you got on there? Like, how do you anticipate, or how have you implemented something like that for increased cost to do stuff? I mean, if you have to disinfect every single thing after every time someone does it, do you charge that person for that? How are you looking at doing that?
I was thinking if everybody just had Apple Pay and then I just like charge them each time that they come to the photo booth. No, actually, I mean, we will have some increase in pricing with our experiences. It's not going to be something that's like line item, like this is COVID related expense or this is this expense, because the way that I try to do my packages is, for our I say our company because people that do work, with my company, I want them to feel like it's their team. So, what we try to do is we make it a collective, like, here's your price. And this includes like, if there's attendance and the props or whatever's included is all one price. The reason why, yes, if somebody, were asking like, does this cover this, this, and this? Yes, it does. Because, now I no longer have an experience where, hey, I'm the one operator or someone's the one operator operating the event. We're all happy. Everything's great. Well, now we have to, like you said, we might have to do some extra disinfecting. I also know that based on the types of experiences, we're going to have some additional signage. We're going to have to be setting up these potential, barriers to separate people, these 6 feet. And, all of these things are going to take place. And now it's something that no longer one person can do. So I'm going to have probably a second person at probably 90% of these experiences now, which, I could probably maybe 70% of them not have 2 people. So I'm just going to include it in that pricing. And that's just how that would be. And I mean, we have to cover those costs now that I didn't plan and expect for.
Can you walk us through what it's been like? I mean, so we're 6 months into this, and you had mentioned that that you're not taking any new bookings at this point. Were you prepared? What have you learned? How are you making it through this?
So some of the things I learned, so I already had offered there was a retainer that's paid for our clients when they decide to enter an agreement with us, or, when they're having their invoice, because some agencies have to work a certain way. So, that retainer part I'd always had, and it was a small retainer. And then after, when I was 6 months into my business in 2014, I decided, you know what, people say that they love a photo booth. And at the time, digital stuff wasn't really big, but they were like, but I have to make this kind of deposit for catering or this kind of deposit for the venue. And I thought, why don't I just offer payment plans? But then at certain points of the payment plan, money can be refunded or not, based on the contract. So I found that actually helped, one, with the stream of income that was coming in on a regular basis, or, funds that were coming in to be able to use like as working capital. But also I found that it allowed clients to say yes, because now it helped them out. So one of the changes, and the reason why I gave you that example, is one of the changes that we're starting to do with proposals now is we still have the small retainer like we did, but then now what we're doing is, if you have an event, let's say in May, and this is just an example, so don't quote me on it, but we might have your retainer due October or November, right? Because right now we don't have a lot of people who are saying that they need these events that, particular time. So I'm not, going to try to just get this money from them for a retainer. So they pay their retainer October, November, but then we're not going to start their payment plan until 2 or 3 months before their event, because then, for the way that our contract is currently right now, it's in the window of they really wouldn't be able to get their funding back, but it's also a little bit closer to the event that should things change, let's say January, February in the world, and they don't feel comfortable moving forward, they're out their one part of their retainer, which is a very minimal amount. I just think that helps for better business relationships, less issues later of like refunding money, or they're in this contract, or we're in this pandemic, or something new and it's not quite written that way, or this doesn't cover it in a contract. So that's just one of the ways of doing things a little bit differently. And I think I don't know. It's a strange place to be, because a lot of people just aren't making decisions and they can't move forward. Or we're in situations where people say, hey, I'm hoping next year things can be, as you say, Zach, what is back to normal? But, back to normal where, hey, we're renting your photo booth and we're going to like plan these 10 events with you. Well, our funding was decreased by 50%. So we can only do 5 of these events now instead of these 10 events. So yes, is that going to have an impact on, your potential sales, that you had for those repeat customers? Absolutely. I think that's a big part that's been a tough impact too, is because of my actually coaching that I've done, like a lot of things, Zach, that you taught me 2 years ago. And, with that digital experience and adding that as another opportunity. And it was great. And I was super stoked that this first quarter of 2020, we were double where we were. I mean, it was just amazing. And then literally before third quarter ended, to have this change, it was like, wow, we went from, wow, we were double where we were planning on going, to now it's, 90% less, across the board.
The foundations are there though.
They are. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying, because had I not maybe, had a business coach who said, hey, think about this, plan for the future, I would probably be in a different situation right now, where I probably would be maybe one of the individuals that, you guys are referencing, where people kind of go, well, okay, there's nothing I can do. And I don't have anything to kind of back me up for a while and hold out for, 6 months in case things don't work out. I mean, you've got to always be planning ahead for your business, not just for what you're going to do 30 days from now, but, where do you want to be 6 months from now, a year from now?
Right. We have a comment from Edmund Street. He says, when and why is a good time to outsource your client connections?
So is that question meaning like, hey, I no longer am going to do my business and now I want to...
I think what he's saying, and I'm going to guess, is
okay.
Like when do you, these connections that you might have, when is a good time? Because he also talked about network marketing, and MLM was an early inspiration for him as well. It taught me that helping others succeed and learning from others, successful people, is key. And then he says, when and why is a good time to outsource your client connections? I guess the question is around, from a relationship standpoint, when is it okay to reach out to those individuals that you might have a relationship with that you might not have ever talked business with?
So new people. Okay.
Maybe people who aren't necessarily clients.
Okay. But
maybe you're gonna, that you want to be clients, but the person.
I think that's going to vary. And I know my answer is probably going to be a little bit, not specific, laser focused. I have definitely gotten emails from people, and of course I'm like, why are they emailing me, now? But everybody is looking for this opportunity for their business or making those connections, and maybe they never reached out before. I guess I don't know if I would say there's ever a right or wrong time, because we don't have a magic ball or crystal ball that tells us, hey, this person is looking for this opportunity to maybe connect and develop a relationship. And it also, I think, depends on what is your intentionality for reaching out to them. Is it to clearly just develop a relationship, just to connect with them, find out more? Is it to try to sell them on something? Is it try to, expose them to new information? I mean, so I don't know if I would say there's a right or wrong time if you don't know the individual. But I think you also have to be realistic to know that you may or may not get a response back.
Yeah, I think it's fine to have friends and do business with them, have them buy from you. Mm-hmm. But in the situation we're talking about, don't be a donkey about it, right? If you just email them or like, hey, canned script.
Right.
that Mary Kay gave me.
Right.
I mean,
Well, for example, like here's an example. I had a high school student that I worked with about four years ago because they just graduated from college, and they'd sent me a message and said, they have this new experience with, let's just say, a financial related like type of experience, and I need to respond back to them, but I did appreciate the way that the message at least was sent, and it said, as you know, I just graduated, I got this job. I know that you're very well connected in the community and I'd love to talk with you. Now, granted, yeah, they might try to prospect me and try to like get me to give them names of people and refer.
oh, you're getting conned.
Right? I know, right? However,
totally
oh
conned.
no, they think they might be conning me, but really my viewpoint is going to be, hey, here's how you can develop your networks. Here's how you can get, develop your relationships. Hey, have you updated your LinkedIn profile and does it stand out from the crowd like Zack's book Anomaly talks about? I mean, those are the things that, I feel like sometimes I have like one step ahead because I'm like, no, I'm not, especially if I'm not interested in it. But hey, I'm willing to hear what they might have to say and then see how I can support them and challenging them to develop their networks. So if you think I'm so networked and connected, I'm happy to teach you and share with you some of the ways that I connect with people and have them, learn from that experience.
Yeah. Let's say everything ends, whatever.
Like the world ends? I mean, Tim, can you clarify this?
I don't want to go that dark just yet.
Everything ends on this episode.
I know. I'm like, wow.
We know we're not going back to normal.
Whatever normal was, right? Mm-hmm.
Right. So the doors are open back up. Business can resume however it is people want it to resume. What's the number one thing that you've learned over the course of the last 6 months?
It's funny because we were just talking about this whole networking relationships. Stay connected to people. Like, stay connected to the people who maybe do what you do. Stay connected to people who encourage you or motivate you. I mean, literally, I just did some, event related, like I called it the last minute lunch bunch and like a chill and chat. And they were kind of last minute things. And the same theme kept coming up over and over is about, we are so thankful for these connections and these relationships that we have with, in this case, other event professionals around the world that you can pick up the phone and cry or get excited about or be frustrated about, or how did you handle this part of your contract? Or how did you do this? I mean, so the one piece of advice I would say is stay connected to people for those relationships for all aspects of whether or not you have a business or not, but just for the mental health side, for the business side, for the just social side, stay connected to people and the right people, I guess.
And that makes me think of this, right? The people who are only thankful on Thanksgiving, right? But that's what we're getting on this, right? Is so many people will be like, oh, let me send you this message because I'm supposed to send you this message today, right? Like, I'm thankful on Thanksgiving. I always text my mom this, or I call her on Mother's Day or something. I'm like, Mom, I'm calling you because I'm supposed to call you today. But I will talk to you on other days too, right? Don't just be like that. That's so fake, right? And so just because something is popular, the thing of the week, does not make it a reason for people to. It doesn't mean that that's the reason why that's the only thing that you should do, right? And so it doesn't matter what the flavor of the week is. There's always going to be a flavor, right? Baskin Robbins built their business off of at least 31s,
right?
Boom, boom, bam! Look at that little. This show is sponsored by Baskin Robbins, where they send us 31 flavors of ice cream. Can you guess which one we had this morning? I can't either. No, I don't know. But Baskin Robbins, feel free to send us as much ice cream as you
know, right?
That's how we got to get sponsors for this shit. Just start throwing out things that we want to use. But yeah, so many people flavor of the week it up, and then like they're like, "Oh, I reached out to 4 people and they said hi. Now what do I do?" Right. I mean, keep talking with them. Keep talking. Right? Like, Tim and I met in a situation where it wasn't a flavor of the week, but it was him meeting people. And then we continued the conversation, right? And it took a little bit of time for us to gel. And now, obviously, we've gelled. Tiffany, I don't remember where I met you.
I know, it's funny that you said that. I was like, when did I first meet Zack?
Have you guys ever met before, Tim and Tiffany?
Tim, did you come to an event?
I've been to several.
He would have been to the startup address that you were.
It was a breakfast.
He would have been at the startup address that you were a finalist of.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So maybe there.
I'm trying to think, did he come to a breakfast, an ILEA event?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was trying to think. It would have been at the Holiday Inn. It was on like blogging and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to remember.
No, that was Chris Shelton.
Oh, okay. Okay, then no, we have not met. I mean, well, not specifically. Yeah. But no, I do agree with that conversation, and I think.
But you have to facilitate it later and later and later and later. It's not. It's like these people who like will go on LinkedIn and be like, "Hey, buy my thing." I'm like, "Yo, bro, I just met you."
Right.
Like let me troll you back. Like, how hard is it for you to just ease it in a little bit? Mm-hmm. Like, come on. Like,
no, I agree. I agree.
Like, who likes those messages?
I don't. I also think
but that conversation can get so powerful if you just slow roll it a little.
Right.
If you were just to do a little, like,
So I think another thing too, to just talk with you all about, which I think we've, talked about in different circles, is sometimes trying to understand who we are, right? So, and sometimes we are told that we have this gift or this talent, and sometimes we embrace it, other times we try to run from it, right? So I've been told a lot more recently, and it's made sense, and I would agree that I'm a connector. I like to connect people. I liked introducing people to people that maybe they could work with, or maybe they just might have things in common, business-wise, personal-wise, et cetera. And so in accepting that that's who I am, and this kind of lunch little thing that I told you all about, that I've done, like lunch and dinner type of thing, these 3 little experiences I've had, I've tried to connect event professional friends that I know, because typically this time of the year we go to an annual conference. It's the ILEA Live conference, and it's for event professionals who do photo booths and catering and hotels. I mean, you name it, they're there. And we would have been in San Francisco last week for this annual conference. And I realized, and also because, as you guys know, I have this photography part of my life, all these pictures keep coming up, like, in your memories on social media. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I miss these people. And we're not spending a week together experiencing all these great things. And so I said, you know what, if I did these little lunch or coffee and whatever, and they're kind of only planned really like 2 days in advance, and it's not like a lot of stress. And of course I invite about 30 people, and about 8 to 10 show up. And what it's done is created this opportunity for people to connect with people that they didn't know. Maybe you're a brand new event planner that started your business, and then COVID hit, and now you kind of feel like, well, gosh, should I have even started this business? I don't have any clients now. I mean, all of these things. But hey, now I can connect with somebody from Chicago, or from, Nigeria, or Australia, or California, who is in the same boat, or they've experienced something similar back during maybe a recession that we had, and they provide some encouragement. So now here's this new connection and link. But me as the connector, if I know that there are people who can be in these different types of scenarios, and that I can create an opportunity for them to connect, I'm willing to do that. I've also learned that just from the 3 meetings that I've done, these little get-togethers, people have truly embraced the reaching out to each other. I really appreciate what you shared. And then, yes, connecting on LinkedIn, and then following up with some conversations, and then me getting an email saying, Tiffanie, I'm so glad that you invited me. I connected with so-and-so just to get some ideas or some support.
But you connected, and by the way, keep the connections with the Z alive. That is spelled correctly. Change 1 S to a
connections.
Z. Connections. It's facilitating something that people had as a commonality, and then keeping that going under a similar topic, right? And then when appropriate, that's when it can go towards maybe more direct business.
Right.
But I think you have to find that common ground first.
Yeah.
Right. Which you did. Hey, we attended this event together. Bring those people there. Have more conversations. Slide it into the DMs. And when it seems appropriate that connection is going good, then
Right.
maybe bring in the opportunity to do business together. But don't just at the first thing, imagine if you would have reached back out to those people and been like, yo, buy my thing because I want you to.
Right. Hey, everybody should do the virtual photo booth because now we don't have to be in the same place and and people would be like, really? Like, Tiffanie, I don't even really know you.
Who is Tiffanie?
Right.
I don't even remember her.
I know, right?
Facebook. That was so yesterday. I do love that feature about Facebook, but it means I have to post more.
Right.
That's the worst part about Facebook memories. It's a great feature, right?
Unless you post it.
But you have to post things. And if you want to post less and less.
They just figure people need to work more now. Like, hey, we want you to post more so you do more work. So then a year from now, look at the results. But that's a great actual, like, whatever that word is that you say, the connection. We have to do the work now, Zack, for a year from now to get some of those results or that impact.
That said, what's your day-to-day look like today?
My day-to-day, well, because I do, the job for Nova Systemic with Northern Virginia Community College, I, up until last week, was literally planning virtual Zoom-related workshops, panels on topics related to industry, business.
How do you
events,
consume fresh these days?
What's that? When am I doing fresh?
Yeah, I mean, right now it seems like there's just Zoom fatigue going on like crazy. So what do you do to keep it fresh?
I know, like, this is probably a secret, so I hope everybody can still hear me, but like, I actually try to figure out what do my clients or participants actually, what are they interested in? I don't know. I like kind of survey them sometimes. Sometimes I do it like on a Google form. Sometimes I call. Sometimes I email. But yeah, that's what I do.
You know what's great about that? Like, that should never change.
I know, right?
Provide what people want.
Right, and it shouldn't be anything new.
Yeah, and literally, because the only thing that actually made me tired in this whole experience, whether it was related to the photo booth or like my event related, education jobs, the only thing that made me tired was like, oh my gosh, like what kind of cool thing can I think of next related to what they're saying they need or that they want or that we know could be helpful for them to attend a virtual event on.
So Tim had texted me 2 weeks ago about a podcast on the Joe Rogan show. Is it called the Joe Rogan show? It was this guy who created Spartan Races, which, by the way, did you know that Spartan Races bought Tough Mudder?
I'm not surprised because I feel like there's some commonalities.
Well, apparently they were super competitors.
Right.
I didn't realize. I mean, I knew their competition, but you didn't realize like how closely they were.
Right.
Like, to the extent where like people were having events across the street, like literally from each other on the same days.
Oh wow! No, I didn't realize that.
That was interesting.
They were just all events that involve like mud and dirt and stuff, and that's not really my thing. So,
but they are event related.
Yes, they are.
Right, they're very much event related, and so I think what they do, the actual event might be different, but the planning of an event and having the activities at an event's an event, right? And so there is definitely a roadmap associated with that. What was interesting is I think the guy's name is Joe DeLuca.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Dissenza.
Joe Dissenza, Joe D. Let's just call it Joe D from Spartan. Said something like this: it doesn't take a lot to actually stand out. Just wake up a couple of minutes early. Do a little bit more work. And so many people aren't willing to do that little thing. We laugh and I'm like, yeah, well, that should never change, right? To the point of like, I do what my customers want, right? I figure out what they're looking for. Right. Oh, I picked up the phone and asked them what they're looking for. That's the little bit of extra work that you have to do to stand out. The fact that like 99.9% repeating of people won't do that is as Stephen A. Smith would say, blasphemy. This is blasphemy. This is ridiculous. I can't believe I've had 0 coffee today, by the way.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Probably 9 cups. But it doesn't take a lot of work, but people just aren't willing to do that, I totally dig the conversation that Tim got out of you. Like, I had a credit card. I used it. I realized I was in a previous job and they challenged myself to do this. I stole that concept and started my business with it. I figured out, 6 years later to stay fresh that I called my customers to figure out what they wanted.
Right.
This is not rocket science, but people aren't willing to actually do the work.
Right.
And so I dig it. I appreciate it. And kudos to you, Tiffanie, for doing the little things. I used to sign books of mine. Like when one of the things I would say is just do the little things, because the little things become big things.
Yep.
And so many people aren't willing to do that.
Right.
And so I commend you for that. So props to that.
Thanks. I feel like a lot of times if you give, it can come back to you in different ways that you didn't even expect it, and sometimes, yeah. Do I get my feelings hurt? Yes. I'm like
We all get our feelings hurt.
I mean, I send information to somebody, like a resource about funding, and I was like, hey, here's some funding. They're like, I already got that. Okay, sorry, that I was just trying to make sure that you also maybe could get some funding. But but then I realized that's not about
Hey, I sent you something yesterday. No,
yeah. I know, right? Zack. But yeah, but I think it's it's about where you are and what you do, and being authentic, as well as standing out too. I think those are really important.
I love that word, authentic. That's good.
Yeah.
I'll write that
And
down.
transparency is another word too. I think I like that one too.
Agreed.
I think transparency, but I feel like we as a society maybe have gotten too transparent on some of the things that we've shown, where it's like, hey, oh, look at me, I'm here. It's like, also live your life.
Right.
Right. So I don't think you have to be transparent to an extent, in my opinion. But like, I don't need to know that I don't need to know everything about you, I guess.
Right.
It's easy to be transparent behind a keyboard. But
Right.
face to face, it's a whole different ballgame.
Well, I think of
face to video. Is that the same thing?
face to video.
Well, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like, I had to introduce a speaker for a webinar, and a friend of mine said that a friend of hers said, "Who is this person who just introduced the speaker? She has all this energy, and she's so just genuine sounding and excited." And she's like, "Oh, that's my friend Tiffanie," and yes, that's how she is. Like that's her personality. And so I found it refreshing at a time when there's so much going on, to have a complete stranger who literally just saw you on video, and heard you speak for 5 minutes, think that you were this certain type of person or personality type. And so I think that's where, when I think about authenticity and transparency is, hey, there are times when I've sat on a Zoom and I'm sitting like this. It's because I'm tired, I'm bored maybe, or just having a hard time. And yeah, have people mentioned that to me. I don't even want to use the word called you out on it, but have they said like, hey, are you doing okay? Like, not on the Zoom, but like, and I would say, no, I'm having a really hard time. I'm just trying to be present. And sometimes people have said, well, maybe you need to turn your camera off and just listen, or maybe just take an hour off, like go do something different. Change up your schedule.
Bad? Is this doing it?
No, that's not bad. But I mean, if you're the type of person, Zack, and we know you, and we can tell that there's a difference in your demeanor and how you're engaging or disengaging, that's what we mean.
Gotcha.
So be you.
Be you, because there's only one of you.
Yes. Yeah.
What's something we haven't talked about today that you thought we would, or that we should?
Maybe I just think that I think that we all have to continue, whether it's related to our work or our personal lives, is we are all responsible for whatever it is we do. If we want our business to stay where it is, whatever point it is, then we just continue to do what we do to keep it there. If we want to change it, try to enhance it, try to figure out how to bring in more income or pivot or change or whatever you want to do, you have to do it. And you are the only one who can be responsible for it. Or if you're responsible for a team, as the leader, you've got to work with the team, figure out what they're looking at, try to motivate the team. I also think when it comes to just personal things in our lives, I know there are a lot of things going on in the world, whether it's health related or, social issues related, or, just education related. There are so many things going on, and we're all pulled in a lot of different directions that probably as a society, we're not used to having to truly, quote unquote, multitask or multi-mind life. So multi-minding life is, I've got to worry about my family if, that's the case. I've got to worry about my job if that's the case. I've got to worry about my business if that's the case. I've got to worry about my education or my kids' education if I have kids. I have to worry about like what my neighbors think because, all of the things that are going on in the world. Do they think I have COVID or do they think that I'm this personality type? Like, I think we just have to really take care of ourselves and remember that we're all in different places. We all have had different experiences. My photo booth experience, so tying this back to the events, my experience is going to be different than a person who just started their business 6 months ago. But it doesn't mean that I should undermine their questions that they may be asking on social media on how they manage through or how they could get through this. And I think it just goes across the board in a lot of different areas and a lot of different topics. And I think when we do reach out to people, I think there's a difference between being authentic. Hey, I'm just reaching out because, maybe I saw on social media you posted something and, I just was concerned. I wanted to reach out. But then following up, so many times people say like, oh, I'm there for you. Oh, if you need anything, or, oh, hey, I know this topic is going on in the world and I was thinking about you and you're important, but then there's no follow-up later on. So I think we're all just at different places. And I think just that mind multi-minding or mind, that's just, I think where a lot of us are.
Beautifully put.
Did it make you cry? I know.
Me cry.
I came up with that word too, by the way. That's like my word.
Minding? What was it?
Multi-minding? Multi-minding? I think I was, because if think about it, that's what I feel like a lot of people are having to deal with. Like whoever's got the barking, animal, and there might be a kid screaming in the background. I mean,
make your Wikipedia entry really quick so you can claim it.
I know. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. I hope it's not a word already.
It is. I just looked it up. It's also.
Are you kidding me? No, you're lying. No, you're probably just trying to tell me that so you could put it in.
I'm not going to do that. But I mean, that's understanding people, right? It's everyone is their own unique self, and I like the way that you put that. So beautifully said. Tiffanie, appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
It's been absolutely wonderful. If people are interested in learning more about you or hiring you, where shall they go to do that?
The best place would be to, we're in a couple different places, but our website is photoboothallstar.com. We're also on social media, mostly under @photoboothallstar. So those are some different ways that people can find us on Instagram or Twitter. It's a little bit of a variation, but online. And then reaching out anytime. I'm happy to connect with people, talk about photo booth, talk about networking, talk about, planning virtual events. I mean, I'm open to helping people in any way that I can.
Love it. Any final words, Tim?
No, I appreciate all these shows, and congrats to you for taking ownership of everything. People can, I feel like Zack and I talk a lot about what people need to do, but you are speaking from experience and you're a shining example of what to do. So thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. And I really do appreciate you all, reaching out and having me involved, because I think just like Zack says, just ask. And I can never say no to Zack, it's just how it is now. That's and right. I truly have appreciated your support, Zack, of my business over the, he's laughing like I'm trying to be serious. Like I've appreciated your, support of my business over the years and introducing me to new people like Tim and just being, encouraged. I mean, you guys may not know, this is something I needed more than you probably even thought. So it's the timing's great. So I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you for the kind words.
Welcome.
And until next time.
Until next time.
Peace and pancakes, y'all. So, why do I say that? I
know. Really?
Peace and pancakes?
What about popcorn? A little less calories.
Depends on what you put on the popcorn, though.
We get some Baskin Robbins, we'll be saying peace and ice cream.
Oh, they might have popcorn flavored ice cream.
See y'all soon.